In the ever-advancing world of technology, AI, biometrics, and human emotional advancement, these two idiots don't have a clue. Welcome to the Life Lessons from Two Neanderthals podcast. I hope you can stand it.
Hey.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry for the delay again, but Ed was here. He saw. He saw it. It was a freaking. I swear, if people don't believe in gremlins, you just ain't paying attention, because I'm telling you.
Right. And see, this is what, as far as I'm concerned, the IT department is I throw. That's how I function.
Yeah, it's freaking ridiculous. I think we were gonna try to throw in. Hold on one second. We're gonna try to throw in the chat just so we can see it. You guys won't be able to see it, but that way we know if there's any questions, we can take care of those. So let me do that first. First and foremost. That's first and foremost. All right, so there's this one, and then we pop out the chat, boink like this.
Little delay.
We grab
my eye hood.
Dylan. Grab that. Go to docs. Rumbelosis. Where does it allow me to? Where does it allow me to edit it? That's where I don't see it. Where do I see it? It's not allowing me to edit. Hold on. All right, so here, didn't mean to do that. There it is, dumbass. All right, so then we put the new chat. Oh, come on, can you just work with me for a second? Apply. I don't know why we're hearing that, especially through desktop audio. Apply. All right, now we should be getting it. And there we go.
There it is.
And I don't know what's going here. Let's just turn this off.
Yeah.
That way we won't hear it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So welcome once again to our completely dysfunctional. Well, you know what? It's good. It's good we're talking about dysfunction today.
It's like the ongoing theme.
So, if you guys can't hear us, hit us on the chat and let us know you can't. But I think we're good to go. So you want to kick us off, at least as far as what we're doing here?
Yeah. So
why are we on this planet?
Yeah. See, what had happened was, so was it a couple weeks ago, I saw a commercial that popped up on TV. I've only ever seen it one time, and that was the only time. And it was about child abuse, and it showed a bunch of, like a kid here, a kid there. And to me, it seemed like the message was about child abuse was the physical part of it, which is huge.
Big.
But, the physical part can heal. It's the mental part that these children carry throughout the rest of their life. And I think that is one thing that needs to be looked at. And so we decided that that's going to be our topic for this week.
That is our topic. And so, one thing I want to lay out here, just so we are going to be we are going to be discussing and relaying probably some of the ways that we've been affected by some. You could call it mental abuse, but I like to play it. I like to call it fucking mind games. And we both grew up with some pretty outstanding father figures where, I know, like I said, mine was, people have hurt me. Mine was a complete fucking piece of shit. And mind games was something that he was an expert at, and man, did he like to play. He played them. But one of the caveats I wanted to explain is that we're going to be discussing some of this stuff. This is not in any way a call for affirmation or some kind of sympathy, grab or whatever, because that's not the way we roll. And that's not what the purpose of this is. We're not sitting here to try to, feel sorry for us and this and the other. No. I mean, that was then.
Right.
Now we're still doing shit.
Right. We've adapted to life since then.
But the point of the matter is just maybe there's people out there that will maybe understand or maybe can relate to some of the shit that we're talking about. I know I'm just toning our mics down because I know I'm probably going to get a little bit spirited. And I want to make sure we're not blaring that shit out of people.
Well, I think the other thing, too, is that there are a lot of people out there that have been undiagnosed with certain things. I am now 53. I think I was diagnosed when I was 40-something, my late 40s. So, this is all new to me. And a lot of things that when I went through therapy is that you start to uncover a lot of things and understand why, I am who I am. And, therapy, I know years ago was kind of looked at as, no, you don't want to do therapy. But yeah, I think now it's become more, not really mainstream, but it's like people aren't afraid to admit, like, yeah, I go see a psychiatrist. So, yeah, and I think the biggest thing is that because of people not knowing, why do I get so frustrated? Why does something happen and then, I go nuts? So that's what we're going to explore here.
I think one of the big one thing is depression, right?
Oh, yeah.
And because people, including myself, there's been times when things are going great. And I don't know what, you don't know what it is. Something, I can't even explain it, right? Something just hit you in the gut or whatever, and all of a sudden it's just like...
Yeah, you go from 100 to like 50.
Yeah,
and you don't know
it's
why.
like, what the... And it's almost like if you've ever watched like a lot of stuff like the Hollywood stuff, like, like if you like where people have committed suicide, maybe even especially in, well, not especially, but even in the music business, things were going good. Things were going really well. And, I'll just throw one out here like Chester Bennington for Linkin Park. Now, he just had, if you saw him, things were going great.
Oh, yeah.
Dude was making money, this and the other. I think it was like 2 weeks before he committed suicide. He was there with his family, and they were out at an outing, and they were videotaping and laughing, and everything was great.
Yeah.
But you just don't know what's in there, and something, I don't want to say triggers or something, but sometimes just something kicks in. Right. And like with me, I get I'm like aggressive, not passive aggressive. So when I get depressed and stuff, it pisses me off. I'm like, what?
Yeah, what just happened?
Fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And it drives you nuts. And so we're whether it's depression, anxiety, whether it's crutches like alcohol or whatever. I mean, a lot of people have different ways to cope. I mean, obviously some are unhealthy.
Right.
But I think also nowadays, so you got the people that are actually hurting and in trouble, and they're seeking stuff, and then you got, because I'm gonna call out, I'm gonna go devil's advocate, and then you got some people, man, that are using this shit for,
yeah, I didn't kill her. I didn't mean to kill her, but
yeah,
that
you got that, kind of like what they did with drugs, like, oh, well, he was on drugs. I don't care if he's on drugs or not. If he killed this person, I don't give a shit if he's on drugs or not.
Right.
And then, of course, you have on the complete other side where you have people that will use the mental health moniker or label, if you want to put it that way, as a complete crutch, and just almost like what they call it, Munchausen syndrome, where they're just, my life is is horrible and blah blah blah. So keep support keep all the love and keep focused on me is where I get. So I don't mind calling that out either, because it's some bullshit.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, and the other thing too is being a man, just like we discussed in another show, is, you know, it's tough because just like we discussed before is the fact that for guys, it's a catch-22. If I cry or if I show like sympathetic emotion, that goes against me. And a lot of times that gets exploited and gaslighted against you. So it's that catch-22. I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't.
Right. And not the funny, but the strange thing was if you watched our video that we had with for Brene Brown that studies this stuff, and she did the study on men, and they found out it wasn't really the other dudes. It wasn't really like father figures or coaches or whatever. It was the women in their life. And I'm not sitting here trying to bash women, but that's where they had the most ridicule from.
Right.
And it's like, okay, just because somebody, it's my thing is like, if somebody's going through their emotion, just because somebody doesn't snap your neck doesn't mean they can't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if I'm showing emotion, or whatever else, man, I could still kick the shit out of you. I mean that in kind of in a joking way. The simple fact is, like, look, I'm trying to show emotion because I'm going through some shit.
Right.
But you want to turn that against me, that's not healthy for you.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, men in society today, I mean, the whole thing has turned around. It's tough, because I know growing up as, the father figures and everything in our generation was the fact that, the man goes out, provides for the family. Mm-hmm. The mother is actually the one that stays home, takes care of the kids, cleans the house, cooks dinner for everybody, that type of thing. And those roles have actually changed. Again, with that being said, is I can remember as a kid is that the mother of the child was pushing the stroller and things like that. It was the mother that was holding the child. Wasn't the dad. I mean, only for pictures and occasions like that.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah. And now it's a complete role reversal.
It's like people's like, well, dads need to be more involved, and I agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the roles in the marriage, the man should be assessing things. He should be kind of not freaking paranoid, like Barney Fife was back in the day. But he's supposed to be scared. She's supposed to be taking care of the children. Not saying the guy can't and doesn't have opportunities to do so, but he's supposed to be scared. It's like when my wife and I go to a restaurant. She'll know that she'll sit with her back to the door because I can't, because I'm already looking, and that kind of stuff. But it's just this role reversal stuff that's kind of weird. So saying that is in, okay, now where does everything with this mental shit go? So how do you navigate all this mental shit, like all this trauma and everything else? So do I step up to be a man? Or do I step up in some aspects or in other aspects? Because my thing is I do not want to be the same person that my father was. All right. My father was a piece of shit. I'm just letting you know that now. Like we said, this is not for affirmation or that we're throwing all our woes out there for people to, be sympathetic. We're just telling you how it is.
Right.
And I know that my father, so I'll get into it real quick. So my big thing with my father is some of the mind games he used to play. And my father was huge on control. All right. He was, he's an alcoholic. He was abusive. He's the whole after school special, right? If you're not old enough to know what an after school special is,
YouTube it.
It's just these shows that used to come on after school, and everybody is like, they deal with alcoholism and teen pregnancy or abuse or whatever. Anyway, but I'll just give you a little bit into the mindset of my father. All right. So initially, back, when I was like, I think it was, when I was 6 or 7, I grew up on a farm. So we had acreage and acreage and acreage. All right. So there was this pond that was, I forget how many acres out there, right? Love this pond. You can get fishing, you can do whatever. Anyway, so this is the kind of man my father was. So he would say, "Hey, jump on the tractor. Let's go down to the pond." Right? Boom. I'm like I'm 6. I think I'm 6 at this point, maybe almost 7. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So shit, hell yeah, I'm excited, right? So we take the tractor, we get on the tractor, we take it down to the pond, and I forget how far it is. It's pretty far. I don't know how many acres. Anyway, so we get down to the pond, whatever, and I don't see any fishing poles. Like I didn't see any fishing poles or anything. So I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not going to go fish. Not that happened very often.
Right.
It happened, once in a blue moon. Anyway, and so I'm letting see the fishing poles. My dad's, he kind of just got the tractor, stood there looking at the pond. I got off and whatever else. He just stood there for a couple of minutes. He just kind of cocked his head, got back on the tractor. So I'm getting back on the tractor. He's like, no. He says, you need to walk up to the house. And I'm like, okay. So now here's the problem with that. It wasn't so much that I had to walk, but see, it was starting to get dark. It's getting dark now. This is in Alabama where we had our farm. This is where I grew up in Alabama. So we did hay fields and everything else. So Alabama in this section is known for copperheads, a lot of copperheads. And every time we do the fields, we always turn up copperheads. They're all over the place. Sometimes they get stuff cut off and whatever because in the baling and shit. Anyway, I'm deathly scared of them. That there could be copperheads. So, and knowing this is my father. He gets up on the tractor and says, "No, you need to come on up. You come up from the house on your own." And he takes the tractor and goes off. So now I'm like freaking out because I'm like, I don't want to go through because it's grass, it's hay and high grass and stuff. And
so there's no like road to get there.
No,
you guys just drive.
This is straight up, and I can go in the tractor's tracks.
Right.
Still, it's high grass. Anyway, I'm sitting there. It's getting dark. It's starting to get dark, and I'm starting to freak out. And I'm like, I'm not going up. I'm deathly scared. Long story short, I finally just got too scared to stay, and I just started running. And I'm running for everything I'm fucking worth. Everything I'm worth. I mean, I'm running my little fucking legs off. And of course, every high grass that your leg kind of swipes, I'm thinking it's a snake,
Sure, you're being attacked.
And because copperheads are poisonous if you didn't know. And so I'm like freaking and I'm like running and I'm and then finally I get there. I finally get to the house and I'm like almost dead. I mean, my friggin' chest is heaving and I just kind of fall back on the porch. My dad comes around the corner. He looks at me, doesn't say a word, walks in the house. And I'm like,
wow.
Was there some kind of not a story, a lesson? Was there some kind of a lesson there that I was supposed to get?
Right.
Is there something that you could have explained to me that maybe I was, was that part of being a man? I don't know what it, never said shit about it after that.
Right.
But that is just one case, and I got, I'm not going to get into everything, but that's just one example of who this man was. And I'm like, I still to this day, he's passed, he's dead. I have no fucking idea what the hell, what, and I don't think there was. I think it is just a way that he controls, and I think that he was a sadistic son of a bitch. So I tell you that story in the simple fact of that fucking traumatized the shit out of me, man. And I have still no idea if there was even if there was a lesson attached. You still might be screwed up, but at least you could justify, or at least put some kind of justification around it, even though it's a fucked up way to teach somebody something. But at least at that point, you would know. And to this day, I have no fucking clue.
Now, I am in no way, shape, or form saying this to, protect your dad or anything like that. But I mean, it makes you wonder, talking about mindset, what his father did. It almost sounds like, because this just doesn't pop up out of nowhere. I mean, it makes you wonder how long this cycle of this, abuse.
Right. So I didn't know my grandfather, and I do remember my grandfather was hard.
Right.
Although from what I've heard from everybody else, he wasn't that hard. Like, he was strict.
Okay.
Because he grew up on a ranch and a farm and stuff, and he expected his boys to work and everything else. But I never heard anything of that kind of shit. That kind of, like, I don't know.
Right.
I heard he was strict. He was a strict, disciplinarian and stuff. But it wasn't. But from whatever I ever heard, he's not one that would just lose his shit or play these freaking mind games and stuff. Where, hell, like I said, my dad did both. He did the mind games,
right.
And then there was not. I mean, he was like Clint Eastwood with a belt. It didn't take shit for him to pull that belt out. I mean, like, not finishing all the meat off of a chicken bone,
right?
The cartilage and shit. He expects you to eat that. If you don't, here comes the belt. And it happened a lot. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with this dude, but. Whatever. I mean, but I'm just saying, it's just, to me, I think everything with my father was control, was about control. Period.
So you have children,
yes.
And obviously you're married. So what changed you to not carry on this cycle that your father did to you? What changed you to keep that from happening?
Well, a lot of it was my wife, okay. Right? So she instilled in me that there are other ways to discipline your kids. Well, for number one, I never felt that need for the control thing, right? Because I mean, he was abusive to me. He was abusive to my mother, and then my mother was just like, "Hey, F it." I think they got married. I think they got divorced when I was like 7 or 8, and then I'm gonna go live for myself. I'm gonna go do my thing, and whatever. So she was gone, whatever. But the whole time, but at least when he was around her, or they were still married, he controlled her. He was about that. So I was never had the control issue with that. But then when I got married, and my wife was like, there's other ways to discipline kids than just hauling off on them.
Right.
Which I've popped my daughter twice on the butt, and my son maybe once. And even though I did that, freaking killed me. I'm like, I can't do that. How do you do that, right? Now, granted, if it came down to I think that's really all it took. So they kind of towed the line at that point. So really, I didn't have a whole lot of hard time raising the kids. They kind of fell in line a little bit. I mean, we had our issues and our moments. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think it was part of it was my wife. Part of it was my kids that I couldn't see them putting them through, like, purposefully putting them through that kind of pain. Now, if I had to pop in the ass again because it needed to happen, I'd have done it.
Right.
It just didn't come to that point. And so, but to abuse your kid like my dad used to do, that I don't get.
Right.
I don't get it. And I think they always say you could either, what is it? It's basically that you could be the same person or be opposite. And I guess I became opposite because I don't understand just putting through either physical or mental.
Right.
Because just putting somebody through that kind of pain and suffering and whatever, I don't get it.
Right.
I don't, well, family-wise, I should say.
So were you the youngest or the oldest out of
youngest?
You were the youngest. Wow.
I was the youngest. My father was, so there's a whole big thing with my dad, and, I know we're kind of keen on me a little bit, but I'll just do it real quick. So my father actually lied to my mother. My father, when I was born, my father was 42 or 43. Mm-hmm. My mother was 21.
Oh, shit.
She had no idea he was that old. So now you can understand. So he's 40-some. So as I'm getting older, when I get into, whatever
sure.
age, he's getting into his late 40s, early 50s, and he's like wanting to just got to do his thing.
Right.
Now he's got this piece of shit kid he's got to deal with, right? And there was a lot of animosity on about that, about him having to deal with a young kid at that age.
Right.
There was a lot of animosity about that because I have stepbrothers, and the youngest stepbrother was 8. I think we were about 17 years apart, 16 years apart. Right? So when I get into, say 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, around in there, I mean, he's an adult.
Right.
So my dad was like, he's done. And then he's got this other kid, he's got a piece of shit he's got to deal with. So that he had a lot of animosity about that shit. And he would tell you that.
Yeah, it sounds like, with the animosity, there was, I'd almost like he hated the fact that now here's another child, and the fact that he had to come clean and, kind of reveal.
Well, he didn't. Nobody. The only thing we didn't, and I don't understand, and I don't even know if my mom even saw it. But when I went and got this job that I worked for the government, whatever, and I had to give my birth certificate for whatever. It's the first time I looked at it. I don't even know why I even. Just like I didn't even have any reason to, but I'm looking at it, and it puts the ages are right there, of my father and my mother.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy shit. So then I did ask my mother at one point, like, how old do you think Dad was? She goes, I think he was about 12 years older than I was. I'm like, no, he was not. I think like almost 20.
Oh my God.
She's like, what? I'm like, nah, yeah. Said he was 42 when I was born. So was that 21? That's 21.
Yeah.
Right? If he's 43, my mom's 21.
Mm-hmm.
Or 42, my mom's 21. It's 21 years, right?
Yeah.
Shit. No, take that back. 21 years. She thought he was like maybe 10, 12 years older than she was. That means like when he's going into college or he's in college, she's just being born.
Right.
That's how I look at that kind of age difference.
Wow.
But anyway,
wow.
So, upon yourself, I mean, how was some of the stuff that your father did? How did you? Well, I'll start with this. Did you even think anything was wrong, or did you just think that was life?
Well, the thing is that our brains up until the age of 7 years old, they're like little sponges, and it'll take everything in. So at that age, I had no idea. So the story goes is that while I was being born, my father was actually out on a date with another woman, which my mom knew. But she couldn't do anything about it. And then,
holy shit.
Yeah,
holy shit.
The guy actually had enough balls to bring this woman to the hospital to see a child.
So the guy that was dating, oh no,
the woman that was dating my dad.
The woman that was dating your dad. So did she know this, or she just?
Oh yeah.
Or did she find out, say, that night, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess I guess I should be at the hospital. My son's being born."
Yeah.
He's like, "What the?"
As far as I know, no.
So she knew about it,
right?
And then I guess through whatever, he's like, "Yeah, I guess my son's being born, or whatever." And she's like,
"Wow,
don't think you need to be." I guess.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can come with. So yeah, I mean it's strange. So. Then they got a divorce. So my father, well, I should say sperm donor. He's really not my father. Decided to move to North Carolina. I don't know if her family lived there or what. I don't know. But then when it came to like the separation and, I guess custody of me, that it was done by him in North Carolina. Now, this is going from what my mother has told me, that the divorce hearings and everything, you all right?
Yeah.
Everything went through the courts in North Carolina. Well, my mother and her family didn't really have the kind of money to get my mother down to North Carolina. So basically it was like arguing with no one.
So your father's family
Uh-huh.
is in North Carolina.
As far as I know.
So that's why he
just up and left. I don't know, if it was what the deal was with that, but yeah, so they the court system obviously went for my father, was like, okay, well, there's no one else to argue with, so okay, here we go. So my mother got about $60 a month from me for child support up until the age I was 18 years old.
60 a month.
60 a month, that
Woo!
was it. And so I guess he had privileges or rights to see me. So my mother was like, hey, if you want to see him, you moved, you need to bring your ass up here and get him. So I would go to North Carolina, and I remember only going down there twice. And at this time, I had one stepsister. And she was the princess, and my father always said, hey, I wanted a boy. Well, him being who he was, I was daddy's little girl. So it was almost like his angst was taken out on me. So I was down there.
But he has a son.
Right. I don't know.
I'm like,
I don't know. So what happened at that point is he beat me, and I don't know for what. So I end up going home. He takes me home, and I told my mom, hey, my dad beat the shit out of me. Now, I'm like 5 at this point in time. So it's like 5 or 6. I'm going to say 6. So, she saw the bruises and everything on my back, and she didn't believe it. Because at the time, I actually fell. He bought me a bike. I always wanted a bike. But it was stayed down there. Now, if I want to keep the bike and ride it every single day, I need to come live with him. So I fell off of, it was weird. He lived in a trailer park, and there was kind of like a drop-off, and then there was another trailer that was down there. But I would probably say, of course, now that I think about it, it may have been like a maybe 6 or 8 foot drop-off. And, I'm just learning how to drive, ride a bike. And I went off of the side of this cliff. And I know for a fact I had a concussion because I don't remember anything except coming to and looking at my father laughing his ass off at the top of this drop-off. Like,
that's
this
funny.
is funny.
My damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is in the 70s, so, a helmet.
They don't have helmets back then.
No.
Unless you're a BMX rider.
And even then they didn't have helmets. But, yeah, so that was that. But, my mom didn't want to believe the fact that, my sperm donor would actually do something like that to his own.
So her way to reason that out is, well, he's learning how to ride a bike.
Absolutely.
All kind of kids fall off and
absolutely get concussions at the age of 6.
Usually you get some skinned up knees, maybe elbows because you fall off, but bruises all over your back and a concussion and shit.
Yeah, no. So the next summer I went to see him as well.
Now, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Is this a volunteer type deal, or is your mom saying, hey, well, I don't know if she even says that, but she can say, hey, I want a break for the summer. Take your ass on to your dad's.
I don't know. All I know is that, this week in, I think it was August, that you're going to go stay with your dad for a week.
Oh, for a week. So you're not talking about all summer, though?
No, it's just like a week. So okay, I'm just doing what I was told to do. So the following summer I go, and my sperm donor came home. I forget what the hell happened. Something happened with my stepmother. Like, she told me to do something or whatever, and I was like, you're not my mom. And he had said something to her about this. And, like, so in the morning, he, like, literally woke me up from a dead sleep and threw me up against a wall inside of a trailer. So, that happened, and that was the ass whipping that I got. So a couple days later, he had a second daughter at this time. She was just a baby. And he worked and she worked, his wife. So I was to stay home. Now keep in mind, I'm 7 years old at this point in time, 6, 7 years old. And I'm watching this little girl, which I don't know what age she was at that point in time, and a baby. I have no idea what the hell's going on. So I don't know what had happened. I think we went outside and played. I can't remember whether she was home or not, whether the wife was. I can't remember. It's kind of foggy. But either way, we went outside, and one of the neighbors in the cul-de-sac, I think, pushed my sister or something like that. So, of course, then my father, he's at work. He comes home the next day and, like, literally, again, beats the shit out of me to the point where he puts my head through one of those cheap-ass wooden walls, the panel walls, and then proceeded to beat my ass again the next morning because I pissed myself. Now, again, I'm out. So this is 2 concussions now. Between the age of 5 and 7.
And when he's beating you, he's saying what, or is he not, or is he just?
I honestly don't.
Taking care of business.
Yeah, I think I just shut down at that point in time. So, I'm allergic to milk. Like, I can't even stand the smell of it. And he would force me to drink, those little jelly jars back in the day full of milk, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? So my mom actually happened to call during dinner one night. And, I was like, hey, man, he's forcing me to drink milk. And he beat the shit out of me. Not once, but twice. So at this point in time, she was like, give the phone to him. And I gave him the phone. And he kept like, no, that isn't true. That isn't true. And then the very next day or the day after that, he ended up driving me back home. So I wasn't there the full week. And when I got home, my mom saw the bruises and everything on me, and that's when she was like, you know what, this isn't going to happen anymore. So I didn't, there was no contact from that point until, like, I was in my late teens, I think. No, not late teens. I think I was like 15 or 16. And, then he would invite me to stay the night over his house with his wife and with these now 2 kids, which are, I don't remember how old they were, but they were old enough, at this point in time. And, he manipulation, like, oh, you should come live here and all this other stuff. And I just remember his wife, who is still alive to this day, was such a fucking enabler. Now that I'm old enough and to think about this shit,
yeah.
Like, she was the fucking catalyst for this guy to go apeshit on me. And I don't know if it was a jealousy thing, and this is all just coming out now as I'm sitting here thinking about it. I don't know if it was a jealous type of thing or what. But she was the fucking catalyst to this whole thing. Now, again, now that I'm just thinking of this, these are the words that are coming out of my mouth, is like, every time something happened, she was involved. Your son did this, or your son said that. So she was the one that made this happen. And
she could probably maybe trying to get rid of you. Maybe she's like, hey, it's me and my daughters.
Right. Right. And that makes sense.
And that son, boy, whatever boy of yours, he needs to go. He shouldn't be coming around here anymore.
Yeah. So then eventually that happened like once or twice, and then that stopped. So later on, I graduated high school and everything, and I started playing golf. And he found out we were talking or something. He just happened to call. And so he was like, hey, I'll come pick you up. We're going to go play some golf. I'm like, all right, cool. So we played a round of golf, and he was like, you know what? How about next weekend we do this again? All right, cool. Next weekend came and went. Weeks, months went by. And then, again, out of the clear blue sky, we go out and play golf again. But then that was it. But he would give me, he would send me his old clubs, which I know is completely stupid, and I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but it was almost like what he thought, and again, I'm just thinking about this now, is more of like an olive branch, I guess.
Could be.
Forget the past, but here's a nice set of golf clubs. Again, I know it's weird, but this is all just like triggering in my head right now, and I'm just trying to figure out, why. And that's where my PTSD came from. I was a kid. I'm being torn out of bed, God knows when, and just the shit beaten out of me.
Mm. So
that's kind of my story. Sorry about that.
No, it's it's like again, I go back. It goes back to my thing is, how in the fuck can you do that to, let's just say, a person,
right?
Much less your family,
right?
Your own kids,
your child.
I don't get that.
Yeah, this isn't like, and again, I'm not saying this to be rude, but it's not like an adopted child or anything like that, which I'm sure it happens to them as well, but
it's like your own flesh and blood.
Right. And, again, I don't know if in his case it was animosity, which I don't know, but, again, just sitting here thinking about it, I believe that she was a fucking catalyst to this whole thing.
Could very, very well be. So did you ever confront her or even maybe confront? Excuse me. Maybe confront's not the right word. Did you ever talk to her and say, like, man, what the fuck was the deal, man?
Mm-mm. No, I had no connection to her at that point, and I don't think I really wanted to.
Right, and I'm not saying you could or should, but it'd been like, hey, what the fuck was your problem?
Right.
I know that when it came to, so I know I had, so then so this is, so also, I'll give you another just quick example of kind of the way my father would play head games. So when we moved up here, we moved up here to Maryland. We didn't live on a farm. We lived in the suburbs, whatever else. So my dad said, well, you forgot, because we grew up on a farm.
Right.
And he's like, well, you've forgotten what it's like to work. Right. And so I think at this point I'm 9. Anyway, it's irrelevant. Anyway, so he goes and somehow he's friends with this farmer, that lives out somewhere, and his name is Mr. Johansson. And he said, hey, my, whatever. Long story short, he set up something for me to go work for him. Just as, not like work, getting paid, just do work. Chores, basically, whatever. And so I'm doing it, and I grew up on a farm, so I knew what the hell I was doing.
Sure.
My dad he damn near had didn't literally, but damn near had a whip in his hand that you go to total line and get shit done. So I knew how to do a lot of things. So I'm like just busting my ass. And Mr. Johansson came to me one day, and I think this was about after a few weeks. He goes, I'm going to have to pay you for this. I said, do not do that. He says, you are working like a dog. He says, I've got to pay you. He said, I don't feel right doing it. And I said, I said, you can't do that. I said, my dad would go nuts, would lose it. And he kind of like shook his head a little bit, whatever, and he kind of let it go. So probably a few more weeks went by, and then when my dad came up to pick me up, Mr. Hansen walks up over to him, and he hands me, a wad of money. It was like, I think it was like $20 or something like that.
Right.
He sends me money, and my father, you could just see the red just come up in my father's face, and he goes, "What is that for? What is that for?" And Mr. Hansen says, this boy has been working his ass off. He says, I do not feel right just having him working for free. He says, not my family. He's not this, not that. He said, it's not right.
Right.
And he said, so I'm going to pay him this money. And then he looked at me. He said, did you tell him to pay you? And I said, and Mr. Hansen's like, whoa, no, this is me, and whatever. So my dad's like, so he says, oh, and by the way, he says, Gary, I want you to go buy something with that money, something for you, and come back and you show me what it is. My dad is about ready to my dad's about ready to lose it. And so now he can't because my dad's thing was all about how people perceived him.
Gotcha.
If you ever met my father, you thought he was the most charming man on the planet. So that was the perception that he had to maintain.
Right.
So anyway, so long story short, so the one thing I had, and Mr. Johansson, you talk about a pond. Mr. Johansson had the pond. It was huge. It was almost like a lake. And there was fish, all kind of fish,
wow.
catfish, whatever else. Anyway, so what I wanted is a fishing pole.
Right.
So I went and got, it was like a cheap Kmart, whatever, but it was mine.
Worked, right.
And I had that and a little tackle box. And I'm starting to get a little emotional because the pole represented a lot more than just that. It was whatever. So I went back and showed him and everything else, and he's all happy with it. And he let me fish every once in a while when I'm supposed to be working.
Right.
He said, he's like, you bust your ass. Go ahead and go fishing. Whatever, go fishing. Anyway, and I think it was like maybe a month or two after that, my dad came home drunk like he always did. And for some reason, he gets me up out of bed, slams me against the wall. He says, "You think you're gonna get one over on me? You think you're gonna play this kind of game and shit? Like I'm dead asleep. I don't know what the fuck's going on."
Right.
And he goes, and he's just babbling this. He's drunk. He's just babbling this bullshit. And he goes. So this you think you're gonna kind of play that? Is that how you want to play it? And I know what the fuck. So then he kind of throws me again to the floor, whatever, leaves. He comes back in the room. He's got the fishing pole in his hand.
Oh no.
Yeah. He takes it and he snaps it in like 3 or 4 different pieces, and he throws it right there. Like I'm still on the floor and he throws it at me, and it's like whatever hits me in the head, whatever. He goes, "That is something that you're never gonna do to me." He's like, "You don't play a game. You get it." So what I got from him is he thought that I went to Mr. Johansson or something and somehow set this whole whatever.
Right.
But in that pole, and I was like, and he left the room, and I said it. It wasn't loud. It wasn't loud enough to where you could hear it. But at that point, I was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna fucking kill, because the fishing pole was just the symbol. That was just that point where it's just manipulation after manipulation, whatever. And I'm like, that fishing pole represented so much to me. And the fact that he just snapped it like that for no, whatever, I was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, old man. One of these days, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I swear. And yeah, it was. That's the way he kept control.
Right.
And that's the kind of shit he would do. And it's just like, when I think with him, when he sees you, and it's not even getting by in life or getting ahead in life. It's just something good that happens to you.
Right.
That he's got to tear that down. That's just kind of like that fishing pole. That fishing pole represented so much to me, and I cared about that damn pole more than I swear. And he knew it, and he fucking knew it. And he's like, all right, you're getting a little high and mighty or whatever it is. I'm gonna take you down a couple notches, and that's kind of the fucking shit he did. Now mentally. Physically, I mean, He did, I guess he could have whipped me with the pole. He didn't at that point. I think at that point he said, I could beat your ass all damn day right now. But you know what? The one thing I know it's gonna fuck you up. It's that damn fishing pole. I take that fishing pole and I break that in half. I know that's gonna, because you could see the wheels turning in that man's head. You could see them. You know that this wasn't like this is some kind of manipulation that he constantly was just on. But again, that's so we talked to the mental state about things. There's a lot of things that I would not. So like in school, if I did something in school, never told him. If something, I played football, in like coming up in school, and got on first team and everything else. That didn't mean anything, whatever. Then he stopped taking me to practice, so then I had to ride my bike, full pads, and ride my bike. So I made sure that at least, and that I did not tell him or didn't show him anything that was going on.
Right.
That was good. Well, I sure as hell didn't show him anything that was bad, because then I would just set him off. But anything good that was good, I made sure that he didn't, or to the best of my ability, made sure he didn't find out.
Gotcha.
Because I knew that was going to trigger something where he had to take me back down again. And so mentally, there for the longest time, I would not share anything with anybody. I'd be like, whatever. And I was, and unfortunately, for a while that happened to me, where if somebody else had something good going on, I was like, oh, fucking who cares?
Right.
I ignored it or whatever.
Right.
Because it just, And then that was a hard transition back, when I started having kids.
Sure.
Because you have to be there, and you have to, and it was just, it was a struggle for me to transition from that, because I'm like, I know this isn't right. Like, I know this isn't right, but I'm having a hard time transitioning out of this shit.
Right.
Because my kids need that, and so everything because of that man was a fucking struggle. Everything, just normal life, was a fucking struggle because of him. Just, it's the mental shit, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the shit that sticks with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fucked up shit, man.
Right.
And I don't understand why these people are the way they are.
Right. And, with our brains, it's kind of weird, but it's almost that fight or flight type of thing, and our brains try to suppress these memories. And I think, that's a big thing, and I truly believe that, I used to fight a lot when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And, when that would happen, I mean, I'm not fighting this kid. I'm actually fighting my father at that point in time, and that's dangerous. That's really dangerous.
Because at that point, you don't, is it just enough for you to prove a point to say, don't mess with me, or are you doing more?
Right.
And taking it too far because you're just like,
right. Sure.
That's it's like I said, and so even though when you talk to or when you go to therapists or whatever else, it's like when I talk to them, I know what my problem is. I know what my issues are. It's handling those throughout my life. Like right now, right? I'll tell you right now. So right now, I take I think it's Zoloft. Well, it's the name Zoloft, but whatever that shit is, where it kind of keeps your highs a little bit lower and your lows a little bit higher.
Right.
Whatever else. So through some snafu with the doctor and motherfucker, that pisses me off. I won't get into that. But I've been off of it for about a month. So, excuse me. So, but I'm thinking. So during that process, I'm saying, okay, let me see if I can manage my shit. Right. I should be able to manage my own shit. Right. Seriously. But what I'm realizing is stuff will happen, like you can probably ask. Well, you can ask my wife and family that I get a little bit snappy.
Mm-hmm.
and I can feel it coming, and I can feel it going, or something will happen. I'm like, fuck, just get or whatever. And I can feel it. I know it's a problem.
Right.
But it's only so much I could do. And I know, and actually I'm actually scheduled for therapy actually next week to get back, to get back on it, whatever, because I it's not that I can't manage it to a certain extent. It's not the way I want to manage it, and it's a fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fight. And I don't want my life to constantly be a fight, not to be an asshole or how I react to things.
Right.
And that's the struggle. Is I know I need help with it because I can't manage it. And possibly could I manage it? Maybe, but it's a fucking fight.
Right.
Who wants to fucking fight? Who wants to fight with that shit every fucking day?
Right. And that's the difference from being an adult to being a man. Because the thing is obviously what you've got going on. I now know what I've got going on. To circle back to what you were saying at the beginning is there's people that will, kind of use it to their benefit. Mm-hmm. Those people are the ones that throughout their whole entire life, they had to fight for everything. Everything was a fight. They were always a victim. No one liked them. Everybody, picked on them and shit like that. But the difference is that you and I have made a choice to get better.
Right. Not
to live in that vicious cycle that we grew up in. But we have identified what's wrong, what sets us off, and we've made that choice to correct it. And that's a major difference. Right. Because there's people that, I'm sure you've gone to school with and things like that. Through work, you've known people, and it's like it's that same vicious cycle over and over and over again.
Right. And you kind of wonder, and I understand sometimes people can't, I'm not saying can, but that's the wrong word. People don't make that decision.
Right.
And some I know that there are some people out there that just they don't know how to live any other way.
Right.
And it's almost like I don't know if enjoy is probably not the right way to say it, but it's almost like they thrive just in that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why do you want to have your life just be a fucking bad, like, drama and bullshit and all this shit all the time?
Right. Well, the other thing with that type of person, too, is, kind of like with what you were saying with your dad, is the fact that, damn, he's got something good going on. Fuck him. I'm bringing him back down to my level.
Bringing him back down. Maybe my life is such shit for whatever, because I can't manage my shit.
Right.
And now I see you getting, better, or something good happened to you, or whatever it may be. I got to knock you down to where I am.
Right.
Because there's no way you're leaving my am. Matter of fact, I need to be in this pool of shit. You need to be right here next to me.
Right. Right.
Or even below me, I guess. But at least but you're not getting you're not getting ahead of me or over me.
Right.
And I don't know if that's
right. And
his deal.
We have all had those people in our lives, and as we get older, as we mature and become men, I don't know whether you consider it having the balls to say something. I just think it's the fact that if I know you really, really well, and that if I ask you a question, you're not going to tell me what I want to hear. You're going to tell me the truth. And I think as we get older and we become comfortable with ourselves, is the fact that people don't always like us because you're not going to tell me the cushy, make me feel better stuff. You're going to tell me like it is. And I think with that, we start to see, those people that we have included in our lives, and you just get to the point where you're like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. You're going to cut that cancer out.
Mm-hmm. but it's the thing about it is if people knew me, or if people that interact with, like some people know me, like you and others, if you know me, I'm telling you the truth because I care. I don't want you to go down this road thinking that something is something that it's not,
Right.
and then have you get to put, maybe so much effort and whatever else into that, and then you get to the end of that road and it is just it's a cliff or whatever, and it doesn't turn out
Right.
And it's like if I had, and me as a even a friend, not even maybe even not a friend, even if I just know you, and if I allow you to go down that road, at least without saying, hey, I've been down that road, that's not the way you want to go, or I just came back from there, that's not where you want to go, or whatever.
Right.
And if I don't do that, and it's like you come back and you come back and you're like, you saw me going down that road. Now you may not say that to me,
Right.
but you say you saw me go down that road and you didn't say anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of going, you and I are kind of going through this now with someone that was definitely a part of the inner circle. But a lot of times what you're doing is the right thing to do. Sometimes that falls on deaf ears, and they don't want that opinion,
Mm-hmm.
or the fact that they don't want that opinion because it's right.
But I want you to affirm me in the road that I'm going. Well, I can't do that if I really feel realistically, if I feel that road is the wrong road.
Right.
I can't tell you that.
Right.
And I won't.
And that's the problem with, certain people that no.
And and it's almost like, how much more do you need to do before somebody accepts it as like, maybe not that I'm always right.
Sure.
Believe me, I've made fucking shitload of mistakes. But maybe I can just listen. Maybe I just ask, what's your motive? Like, why are you telling me this?
Right.
Okay, I want to do this. You're telling me to do this. Why? And if I can't come up with a legitimate answer, I'm like, oh, that road just looks better, I think, or something. Before I can tell you, look, no, dude, I was just down that road.
Right.
I came back. I'm telling you, that's not because you're just going to end up whatever. And you can discern whether or not you think I'm, or not just me, but whoever it is
Right.
making a decision or is telling you this stuff because they care or they're fucking full of shit.
Right. Well, and then you've got the opposite side of the coin is the fact that just because it didn't work out for you doesn't mean it's not going to work out for me.
Right.
Even though it's a lose-lose situation.
And does mental like we talk about mental trauma, does mental trauma also maybe go the opposite way and you have somebody that has that kind of attitude? Well, that was you. That's not me.
Right.
Right? Well, you're a failure, or you're an idiot, or you suck, or you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
That's not me though.
Right.
Right? Instead of maybe taking 2 seconds and saying, okay, well, let me hear okay, tell me why do you think that that's a bad road?
Right.
Or whatever. And and you can, because I think it's bullshit. I think somebody can tell sincerity from bullshit, right?
If you choose to.
Well, if you
make
choose
that
to, because
decision.
my whole thing is like, because when I became a Christian, which is this helped me considerably, I was in my 30s,
Mhm.
and one thing that I knew was when somebody's full of shit,
Right.
or somebody's bullshitting me, all right. And now, unfortunately, that kind of led, and I won't get into my whole testimony because that's not what I'm here for, but I end up, there was one pillar of believing in of Christ that I could not wrap my head around because it was such an opposite of how the world has told me, or how the world raised me,
Right.
to what you had to be and what you had to do. And I won't get into that, but yeah, it's so it's a minefield to navigate, especially when you yourself don't know where you are.
Right.
Like where mentally, or is this shit right? You know, is that the way to go? And I'll say that, you know, thanks to my wife and my kids and my faith, because I've prayed about shit, and I'm like, look, I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I obviously cannot do this on my own, right? So I need help if I'm ever going to succeed in this stuff. And fortunately, that's well, I'd say it's kind of worked out. I mean, not everything's not rosy, and you know, I'm not Rockefeller sitting on a shit ton of money and in a mansion, but you know, I'm rich in. To me, I think I'm rich in a lot of other ways, you know,
absolutely,
family and friends and all that stuff. So, but I mean, I don't know. It's a struggle. It's a fight.
Right.
It's a fight every fucking day.
And you know, again, this pulls into being a man, is the fact that, you know, life sucks. We get thrown bad shit, regardless of how small it is or how big it is. But how we choose to deal with it makes a difference, you know? And that's the biggest thing, is that as we mature and we learn, you know, these are the things that you can either be a glass half full or a glass half empty type of person. It's your choice on what you make that decision. And going back to what we said before, is that, you know, you have these people that I'm sure everyone has in their life, at least one, hopefully that's all you have and not more, is the fact that, you know, they're the victim. Well, it's your choices that have made you the victim, and you choose to wallow and not make yourself any better and learn, and this is where you are. So you can either grow up and learn and adapt and make it right, or you can just wallow in your own shit and just keep trying to bring everybody else down, because that's, you know.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
A lot of people that don't get their stuff fixed drag other people down. The whole, like, I consider myself a realist, and one person defined, I can't remember who it was, one first person defined a realist as, you know, glass half full, half empty. Well, the glass is half empty, but I'm going to fill it up.
Right.
All right. I can see that half of that glass is empty. I can see it's empty, but I'm going to fill it up.
Right.
So that I thought was kind of cool that somebody, you know, kind of referred, because I see things how they are. But you know what? Okay, I see it.
Right.
But that's all right, because I'm going to do what I can to get it to here,
right,
or whatever it is, or to make it better. All right. But I'm not, you know, I'm not looking at unicorns and saying, oh, it's all fine. No, you know what? Actually, it's not fine.
Right.
It's fucked up. But we're going to work on it, and we're going to get that fit. We're going to fix it, and we're going to make sure, you know, as much as possible, it doesn't happen again, or it doesn't happen to this person, or whatever it is.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I like to look at things. I can see the glass half full, but we're going to take care of it. We'll get it.
Right.
So.
Right.
So the only other thing I have is, because I had so I had a woman at work, and I told her I wouldn't mention her name.
Is it Beatrice?
Not Beatrice. Because she asked me how I got into writing, right? And I said, well, and I went to answer her, and I said, well, that's not what we're talking about in this podcast. And then I stopped and I said, well, you know, it's actually quite relevant. And it does talk about kind of that struggle. So I said, okay, you know what? I will, as if you watch I don't think she said she's going to watch it live, but she's going to watch it later. I said, okay, I would tell you how I got into writing. And so this is for you. And I almost mentioned her name. I almost said it.
I'm going to call her Beatrice.
Beatrice. Yeah, let's go with Beatrice. Okay, Beatrice. So, again, going to my father and the whole big spiel, whatever, and all that shit. So I'm close to 17. My father comes in, drunk and shit like that, and I'm coming down the hallway for something. I don't even know what the fuck's going on, whatever. He comes in. I tried to move out of his way. I bump him a little bit, because the hallway is only so big. Anyway.
Right.
Anyway, so then he takes his arm and slams me, on my throat, slams me against the wall. Like, we fucking shout, I'm trying to get the fuck out of the way, you asshole.
Right.
But anyway, long story short, then he starts slapping me around and stuff and bang, and then I don't know what it is. Something snapped, and I said, "Fuck it," and it just all of it came out, and I went to town, and I fucked him up pretty bad. Anyway, I left, blah blah blah. Went to my friends. He calls the cops, says I attacked him, blah blah blah. They come, and I get arrested, and there you go. So I go to meet the judge, and the judge says, "Okay, we're going to your community service, blah, blah, blah. You need to take anger management courses." I'm like, the fuck, whatever, you know. He said either that or 3 months. And I said, well, okay, well, shit. All right. So anyway, go to anger management. I said, okay, whatever. I'll say whatever they need me to say, whatever, and play the game, whatever, and I'm out. And whatever, and I'll pass it, whatever. So I get into this counseling. And I met the counselor, and her name is Miss Gwen Stevenson. Miss Gwen you ain't gonna bullshit her. Miss Gwen knows what time it is. All right. So, and to pass this, you have to do a journal,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to keep that up to date. You have to write every day, even sometimes multiple times a day. And then when you go to your class, your counseling session or whatever, well, you do like a class thing and you do like an individual counseling session. So she goes over what's in your journal and blah blah blah. So I wrote in it, and there was a lot. And she, first time we met, she was like, "Man, whew." She goes, "Well, you're writing. It's dark. it's dark, because I'm just pissed at the world.
Sure.
Fuck the world. I'm just like." Fuck everybody.
And you're 17 at this time.
Yeah. And so she goes, whatever. So she's like, but keep it up, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do our sessions and whatever else. A couple of weeks later, I think that the whole thing was 12 weeks. Was it 12 weeks?
Yeah, if that would have been 3 months.
Yes. Yeah. Duh. So a couple of weeks later, she brings me in and she goes, I tell you what. She goes, I'm really excited about what I'm reading here. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So she goes, you don't understand. She goes, see, what I'm seeing is you're starting to get lighter and you're starting to focus a little bit more on what's there, not what's back here. And it's, whatever. And I said, oh, okay. She goes, actually, matter of fact, she goes, your writing is starting to take some kind of form. She goes, it always looks, and like, she goes, to be honest, it's starting to take a form. It's kind of looking like poetry. And I went, I'm like, what? I'm like, bullshit. Poetry? What are you, nuts, lady? And I'm like, all right, whatever, but that's okay. Whatever. Yeah, okay. So another couple weeks go by. She brings me in, and her face is just lit up. She goes, I really am excited. She goes, you are taking me down a journey. And I'm like, all I know is I'm just putting shit down on paper.
Right.
I'm just writing what I'm just writing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm writing. I'm thinking whatever else. And she goes, no. She goes, you don't understand. She goes, you are focusing. She goes, if you look at this and the writing you did back, was it at this time, 4-6 weeks, whatever the hell it was. She goes, no, it's completely different. Completely different. She goes, you are writing also. She goes, you're writing now in a way of telling a story about where you want to be. And she goes, I'm so excited about what you're doing in this, that, and the other. And I'm starting getting emotional. So she was the only one in my life at that time that gave a shit about anything I fucking did, anything. And she had no. She had no skin in the game. She could just say, okay, you're keeping a journal. That's what you're supposed to do. We're going through our counseling sessions. You're done. Or you're fine. You'll graduate.
Right.
But that was the only person in my life that gave a shit about anything. And so the only thing I remember from that point was that I could not let her down. And that, I thought I was going to be able to hold it together a little bit. And that I could not disappoint her.
Right.
And I would not disappoint her. And from that point on, I focused on everything I was writing. And so it graduated from there and there, and I got better at it, and I guess this is what she's telling me. And so we had these sessions, where she would go over it, and she would tell me things that I didn't really know about what I was writing,
Right.
and stuff it represented, and that was probably one of the most influential people ever in my life, ever. Besides probably obviously my wife and stuff, but she made such an impact on me, I swear. And I was like, that's the only thing I could think of. I didn't even know it didn't even concentrate on the writing. It was just about not letting her down.
Right.
And that's in a nutshell. That's where the whole thing started.
Gotcha.
And even after I left her class, or even after I left, and I won't even get into that. That to me was one of the most devastating things I ever had to do, is actually graduate her or
get out of there.
Get out of her class.
Wow.
Because she was, at that point, she was like one of my lifelines.
Sure.
For anything. And when and she told me, she goes, you're okay, and everything else. And then that's kind of where, she kind of, she actually kind of suggested the military and said, I think it'd be good, because I think you have so much to offer, but there's something that even though I think you're able to use that anger, but you still need an outlet, and this and the other. So anyway, I won't get into all that, because that crushed me. Is when I had to leave.
Right.
Because I said I will, and I told her, I said, I swear if you make me leave, I swear if I have to leave, I'll fuck somebody up in here, and they'll give me another. She goes, sweetheart, they won't give you. They'll put you in jail. They won't make you go back. They won't have you go back through this course again. You'll go to jail, and probably for 6 months or a year, who knows. And so that's where the writing started. And the only reason I agreed to tell that was because it kind of came into that. But I thought I was going to keep it together through that, but I didn't do so well. So, but anyway, yeah, that's that. That was that. I didn't want to get like emotional and shit, but but that woman, I swear, I mean, she was one of the, as far as anybody, when you look at coming into my my life,
sure,
it was her, and it was like, it was my wife and
sure,
kids and stuff, but she was the first one that, well, I won't say she's exactly the first one. My grandmother, I think, was the first one. But yeah, she had a huge impact and had no skin in the game.
Wow.
No skin. Just write your damn journal, and you're good.
Right.
And you haven't bit anybody's head off, and you haven't slapped the shit out of anybody, so you're good. She could have just lived it at that.
Right.
But she didn't. And so I was like,
well, at 17 years old, she definitely made a strong impact on your life. And I see that in your writing, and I also see that in life as well. Where you want people to succeed, and you have that input, and that's what makes you. That's
Miss Gwen. That is Miss Gwen. And I know anybody's going to ask. So yeah, we kept in touch for a while after that, because I couldn't let her go.
Right.
I could not let her go. And I said, as long as it's something that you don't think is unhealthy, that's not. But good for her. We lost touch only because good for her. She was like in her 40s.
Okay. And
she finally found somebody. She got married, and his job took him, I want to say Arizona somewhere, and we kind of lost touch. But it was good for a good reason, because I was happy for her, because she got, her life.
Sure.
Not that her life was bad, just like that was her next step was, or what she really she really wanted to get married and have a family. Not I don't know that she's kind of in her 40s. I guess you could still have kids, but she wanted a family or just a family, whatever that meant.
Sure.
And so it was good. So we did lost touch, because I went in the military,
right,
and I was all over the place, and then she went to Arizona, whatever. But it was a good thing. I mean, she still had, and so in case anybody else is wondering, I did look her up. I think it was I don't know how many years later, and she had, I think it was on Facebook or something, she was doing well, and I was going to reach out, and I just like, she's kind of doing well. I don't know, whatever.
Right.
And then, and then it was like, I forget, then 10 more years went by, and I was like, whatever, and then she had passed.
Gotcha.
But anyway, Miss Gwen Stevenson, her legacy lives on, I tell you. But, that's that. So.
All right. Well, I think we're at a good stopping point.
Yeah, I think we are.
So,
shit.
Again, we are not therapists. We are just two regular guys. And, by all means, just like you said, we're not looking for, oh, my God, I'm so sorry that happened. We're not looking for that. The thing is that there are other people that are out there, men and women, that have gone through this same thing and possibly are still going through this same thing. And, again, please feel free to reach out if anything struck a chord, if there's something going on in your life that, hey, maybe you want some direction in, or maybe we've experienced it as well. Please feel free to reach out. For those of you that will listen to this or are listening to this, thank you.
Yep.
So, yeah, we appreciate everything that people can give us, like us, subscribe.
Now, I don't see anybody, nobody's put anything in the chat yet. And I'm just going to go on the aspect that they were just enthralled by the conversation.
Yeah.
Not the fact that there's nobody out there.
Yeah, right.
That's you know what? I'm a realist.
Yep.
Maybe there's nobody out there, but I think maybe they were just enthralled and blah blah blah. And they just did, whatever, just did whatever, and so there you go. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Half full. It's half full.
Or it's half empty, but we're gonna fill it up.
Goddamn straight.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Have a positive 2 weeks. Stay positive.
I guess we got what you got? World Day coming up here.
Yeah.
Not too long.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was gonna ask you just real quick. So, next show.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that's going to be close. I don't know. Maybe not that close. Maybe it's too soon. I don't know. We'll talk about it. But I was thinking about maybe having, talking about Father's Day.
Ooh. Okay.
Or the lack that nobody gives a shit.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Father's
Father's what? Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
No, but I know there's this kind of thing where some people are saying, Father's Day, and there's other people that's really gone, it's really on the other side, and they say, fuck it. Nobody gives a shit.
Right.
Don't tell me happy Father's Day because nobody cares. And so I may want to bridge between the two.
Okay.
And try to come, I think, because what?
I just look at it this way. When you see the kids, whether they're boys or girls, men or women, that are successful in sports, and that one moment that they get the camera on them, they don't say, thanks, Dad, for, passing the ball around. Yeah. It's always, thanks, Mom.
So actually, maybe we'll kick that one down the road. Only because, our next show, if we did it 2 weeks, would be June 1st. I think Father's Day is like a couple weeks after that.
Okay.
So maybe we'll just we'll come up with whatever next week is, or next show is, and then the one after that, maybe we'll do, that would be Father's Day. Ooh, wouldn't it? 15th? So we do the 15th will be Father's Day. Oh, I don't know. Should we do Father's Day? Should we do a show on Father's Day? I don't know. Stick, or just stay tuned. We'll find it. Well, Father's Day won't be like Mother's Day.
Yeah, not real celebrations.
I think we might be okay for Father's Day.
Right. Oh, I have an idea. Let's have a cookout, and guess who's going to cook? Dad.
Speaking of which, let's also talk about when we're talking about getting crabs. That'll be 2 days. Maybe we just push it to Saturday or Sunday. Yeah. Or something or whatever.
Yeah, we'll figure
it out. We'll figure it out. Just stay tuned on Discord or whatever, and we'll let you know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody that chatted with us today.
It's probably going to get the exact same on Father's Day. No, we'll probably get it worse and be like, yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah, right, exactly. It's a waste of my time.
Father's Day.
All right,
Mother's
folks.
Day. M-U-T-H-E-R, your mother.
Mutta. All right, everybody. Stay positive out there. Have a great time. 2 weeks, and we will see you back. And we have no idea what the hell we're going to talk about.
I had no clue, but it'll be something.
It'll be entertaining.
You'll be all right.
All right, folks.
See ya.
See you.